everybody, welcome back to Planet Coaster and to the project Occasional 2. In the last episode we built the entrances to the Viking village Jonnac. Of course those watchtowers alone don't make a village, so today we are constructing several buildings, adding shops and creating a village center with a fountain. Long story short, a village needs houses and today we're building them. Let's start with the central element of the village square, the fountain. There isn't a dedicated fountain in Planet Coaster yet, and I miss it. So I'm creating a custom fountain using the Viking fence. I'm setting it up as a standalone scenery object because I'm pretty sure we're using it in several other spots. Next up, design various buildings for the village. I'm mainly working on two larger structures that will later serve as a template for duplication, a barn and, of course, a forge, which no Viking village should be without. These buildings will be entirely new constructions, not derived from the entrance structures, though of course they follow the same style. First, the barn. I want guests to walk through the center of the building, with shops on either side of the path and a more intricate roof design. From the barn, I'll develop the forge. It will be about half the size of the barn and have a larger open area on the ground floor. Here, of course, the forge will feature an open fire. And I'll use every single piece Planet Coaster offers that even roughly fits a forge setting. So that's the plan for the two major buildings, but of course a village needs more than just two houses. I also create several variations of the smaller buildings, including spaces for staff facilities and shops and those kind of things. Sounds like quite a lot of work. In the meantime, it's time for some Planet Coaster music again. And yes, it's still the soundtrack from Planker 1. I know, it might be not the most up-to-date choice, but I still love it. So, be right back. So much has happened that I haven't even commented on yet. Let's skip the interludes with rocks and bushes for now, but our village now has its first field for growing grain. That's a good start, but I feel like it's not enough. We need at least one more larger field to support the villages. While we're at it, maybe we could add a windmill, one of the top-selling scenery pieces in Planco 2. And before you ask, no, I won't be building a butcher shop. Aside from the fact that Planco doesn't include animals, I wouldn't feel entirely comfortable with it. What else? Oh, right, towards the back of the village square, I built a small shrine. Honestly, I have no idea if that's historically accurate, but it seems fitting for the location and helped me fill a gap between two houses. Phew, and folks, that brings us close to the end of today's episode. Oh, one more thing. I've adjusted the recording settings for the cinematic shots. That should look much smoother now. Does it? Let me know. Let's see if this new system works well. Well then, thank you for stopping by and see you in the next episode.